Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Show Us Your Shit. I'm Dan Schreiber. Thanks for joining us again. This is an exciting episode for me. We're going to be speaking to someone who I've been talking to on and off over the internet for a few years now, and only got to meet properly once at a party celebrating the 100th birthday of her late father, and we're going to be talking a lot about him tonight. So our guest tonight is Jane Milligan. Jane Milligan is the daughter of Spike Milligan, the great godfather of British comedy. This is the guy who gave us The Goon Show and basically invented comedy to an extent. I think most comedians that you will hear of these days who have an influence on British comedy probably have been influenced by Spike. So Monty Python basically took Spike's TV show and turned it into a TV show. They acknowledge that to an extent. Every comedian that you'll hear about, they'll have the silliness ingrained in them via the life work of Spike Milligan. And Jane is an amazing actor. She's appeared in so many plays and movies and TV shows. And we were talking about this show, and she said that she might go through her attic and see if she could find some stuff that belonged to Spike during his lifetime. And she has, and that's why we're here tonight. So thank you all for joining us on tonight's show. We're going to get right into it. So I'm going to bring in now Jane and some amazing stuff. I've had a preview of some of the stuff that we're going to see. So let's see when she gets here what she got. So Jane, hello. How are you?
Fun.
Thank you for doing this. So lovely to see you again.
You too. You too.
This is so the last time we saw each other was the 100th birthday that you threw in the Museum of Comedy in London.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, that was an amazing party.
Well, like a bit of a crowd rush, and then everybody went. We only had like an hour or something, didn't we? But I thought.
Oh yeah, there was some sort of improv comedy show on afterwards. Yeah, they needed the room, but it was really cool. Paul Merton gave a speech, which was really fun. Thank you for inviting me to that. So
pleasure.
We're going to kick straight into this. So I'm going to do the intro. Welcome to Show Us Your Shit, or some Shakespeare, a pair of pajamas, and a mutton chop. And I'll explain at the end of the show why it's got that extra bit. This is a show where, while we're in lockdown, we are talking to interesting people around the world who are sitting at home with all of the interesting stuff that they've accrued over a lifetime. And tonight's guest is Jane Milligan, who is an actor and also is the daughter of Spike Milligan. And some of the items we're going to see tonight are related entirely to his life. So let's go, Jane. What do you got? First item.
Where can I begin? Well, I showed you a little bit of shit, didn't I, yesterday? The sort of shit I thought you might be interested in. Sort of things that he. Well, I suppose I should start with his slippers, which I really wanted to bury him in.
Oh. So those are backwards for us, Mr. Funny.
Yeah, I
amazing.
That was really funny, but I think he would have found that really funny as well.
Yeah, you got vetoed, or you just decided against?
Well, when people die, everybody loses their sense of humour, don't they?
Yeah,
straight away. So, but of course, everybody has to die, and unfortunately, he did. So, we did bury him in very funny comedy outfit.
Did you?
Yeah.
What was it?
His favourite clothes, really. But the funniest bit about it was that he was wearing this jacket that his mother had handmade for him out of a blanket. But it was beautiful. It was like a kind of like a bed jacket, you know. But it had in it, in the pockets, we had like fairy letters that he'd written to us.
Oh, cool.
Mint creams that we'd made him, because around his bed he kept all the things we ever made him, all the shit we ever gave him, you know.
Really?
You're a new dad again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thaned you very much. Yeah. Second kid.
The kids will make you all this crap throughout their young lives, you know.
Right.
Boxes and clay and shit, and Dad kept everything, and it was all around his bed on shelves.
That's so cool.
All the toys that we ever made him, we were basically, he wanted them in the coffin with him.
Oh, really?
Including a pair of patent red shoes that I had from when I was 6. And and a handful of air rifle bullets in his hand.
That's what he wanted. That was his request?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He taught us all to shoot and stuff, crazy stuff, you know. Not in a
Yeah.
just in a kind of accuracy way, just in case
Yeah.
you need it.
Can you show the slippers again for people who are just joining us? So this is the first item.
I bought him these slippers because he was Mr. Funny, wasn't he?
He was. I mean, that's, yeah. If anyone had that title, it was him. I love that he knew it as well. You know, he was like, yeah, I'm Mr. Funny.
He was Mr. Funny.
Yeah.
But they were very dangerous because they were so slippy. He used to walk really slowly across the hall, like when he got really old. So I tried them on tonight and nearly went arse over tit. They're so fucking dangerous. Are we allowed to swear on this program?
Absolutely. It's called Show Us Your Shit. Yeah. It's
yeah.
This is him, by the way, for people who aren't entirely familiar. This is the great Spike. Probably not in his slippers there, but wouldn't put it past him.
Regular days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how long did he have those slippers for? Were they sort of years and years, or
12, 15 years? You know, they were favorites, but he used to like to wear a little Chinese slipper around the house. That was his favorite, like a little plain, very plain Chinese slipper that was so dangerous that he could have slipped and killed himself at any point, you know.
Right.
Yeah, he was a daredevil in the foot department.
Yeah. So you said the thing that he was buried in, it was his mother had made a
handmade jacket made out of a blanket that was just, it was beautiful. It was really soft grey felty kind of material with all embroidery around the collar. I think, you know, most people would be buried in a suit, but he was in his favourite clothes, you know, including his Chinese slippers and this bed jacket and his jeans. He always wore his jeans and all this stuff from around the bed, you know, this crazy stuff that he.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And did you say that there were the fairy letters that he used to write?
Yes, fairy letters. I should have dug them out to show you, actually, shouldn't I? But that was something that he did for us as children. He kind of introduced us to the realms of fairies and elves and pixies and dragons and stuff like that. And he used to write these tiny little letters to us, really, really small. Maybe I'll get that out for you at the very end. I'll go and dig them out.
Cool. Yes. Yeah.
The size of a 50p piece. And he used to bury them all over the garden, and we'd be instructed that we'd had a letter from the fairy kingdom, and we had to go and find the letter, which would be buried under a rock or some flowers or something, you know. And there you'd find this incredible tiny thing with a well done in your exams, and you're being a very good girl, and well done for looking after Nan and walking the dog, and just positive stuff, you know, from the fairy.
Yeah. And did you buy into it at the time, or did you know?
100%.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, we used to reply, and also do like little tea parties for them and stuff like that. So, you know, set up tea parties in the doll's house. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw one leave my nursery bedroom window when I was about 6. I remember a tiny boot go out the window, and sure as definitely I could say, hand on heart, that was real.
Yeah.
Wow,
maybe it was. I mean, but at what point did you guys suss on to the game? Did you out him? Was it a big moment, or?
No, I think we just let that go nicely.
Right. Yeah.
Let that go with Father Christmas, and just let it go. And wow, I mean, I actually got a phone call on my 6th birthday in the during the tea party, and it was Dad upstairs on the extension. At my birthday present, he was the fairy king.
Wow.
He put on this tiny little voice, and of course I knew it was him, but I erased that completely. And me and all my friends were instructed to run to the end of the garden, where there was this rose bush next to a little hut we had, and I had to look inside the rose, and there was my birthday present. And it was a tiny little pendant for my necklace, which was a golden bird cage. And he said that they made that for me for my birthday.
Wow. What a dad.
I mean, that was kind of normal, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a sort of how much effort would he go into just making creative things for your life?
Everything to him, that the kids' imaginations were on fire. I think, there was no shortage of time for him, for the kids, for us all to have a vibrant and huge imagination, and he would fan those flames whenever he could.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I had a really so you mentioned I've just become a dad again. But when I became a dad the first time 2.5 years ago, I was back in Australia just a few months after he was born, Wilf, and one of my neighbors is your sister, Laura, who I've known for years now, out in Sydney, and she did this incredible thing. She said, I want to lend you something for an evening. This was just before I was leaving. And so I went over to her house, and she handed me this big folder, and it was all the letters that Spike had written to her over the years, from when she was a kid all the way to an adult. And she said, go home and get a nice, drink out, and just read what it means to be a good dad, and here are all the letters. And I spent the evening just reading all of these letters that he'd written, and they were phenomenal. The positivity, the absolute love that he had for all of you. I mean, he speaks about all of you in the letters. Just a phenomenal thing. And it was such an amazing thing for Laura to do, to say, have a night reading what it's like to be a good dad. It was very, very cool. I believe she's donated all of those letters to the local museum where your grandmother would have lived, which is in Woy Woy. Yes, I think they're all there now.
Woy Woy Library, actually.
Yes, Woy Woy Library.
It used to be a bank. It used to be the bank. So it has a big safe in the basement. And in that safe for years was his cornet, his trumpet, his silver cornet.
Yes.
And another thing I had to show you, actually, his cornet mouthpiece.
Oh, cool.
So I don't have the cornet, but I have this bit of it.
But you have the mouthpiece.
That's brought the dog into the picture. So Laura when he died, she left. My stepmother said, because obviously she lived in Australia, Sheila said to Laura, take something, you got to take something, So Laura said, I'll take the cornet and a pair of his socks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She got there just after he'd gone, unfortunately.
Oh, what a shame. Yeah.
It was quite funny, of course, even though the fact he was dead wasn't funny, but the local funeral parlour came to take him away. And it was a Volvo estate that came from the local place in Rye. And Laura, I'll never forget Laura, she was so upset. She said, they're taking him away in a Volvo estate. What's going on here? Did. And she went to sleep in his bed for the next 24 hours and just snuggled up and just soaked up his vibes,
Very cool.
Yeah. She was, I think, his firstborn, and she is Spike in many ways in female form. That whole thing about giving you that file to look at.
Yeah.
What a lovely thing to do, because she understands about good parenting, I guess. People often think she's batty, but she's wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she is batty, but so wonderfully batty.
Oh, God,
and she's a great author as well.
She is. She's a very great yes.
It's her kids book. Yeah. I've got all three. If anyone's looking for great kids books, they're only in Australia, but this is Laura's books. They are mad and wonderful. I'll post some pictures up later, but there's three of them.
I told her I was going to do Show Me Your Shit, and she stopped, really went, what? You thought I was going to show you my shit.
Yeah. I actually got a message on my DMs of someone saying, has anyone shown you their shit yet? And I wrote, no one. Really, and then I checked the next message and someone had sent me a picture of their shit. I had to go back to the person and go, actually, sorry, yep, just got one. Yeah.
So my grandparents lived in Woy Woy, which in Aboriginal means water, and more water. I found this great picture of my grandfather today.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that cool?
That is an amazing photo.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that representative of what he did in life, or is that when
Yes.
you go to those old and you dress up as a cowboy and they take
No,
an old picture of
that's
you?
him.
Wow.
Yeah, because he was an entertainer for the troops in India way back, like after World War One. Yeah, Spike was born in 1918 in India.
Mm.
So my grandparents used to entertain the troops. So they used to. Yes, he's kind of in costume. He is in costume, but
That's an amazing photo.
Leo, Leo,
Leo, yes, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
named after the Pope, Leo Alfonso.
Was he?
Yeah,
Okay.
one of the popes. Yeah, apparently the priest convinced his parents to not call him Percy Marmaduke. It was going to be Percy Marmaduke. The priest said, "Are you sure?" And they went, "Well, what's wrong?" And he said, "Well, why don't you just call him Leo Alfonso after the Pope?" And they went, "Well, okay, Father, yes, okay." So
Percy Marmaduke, that's fantastic.
Percy Marmaduke Milligan.
I wish we'd done this episode a week ago when we were still deciding my son's name, because that would have had a huge influence on what road I would have gone down. Let's get another item, and because this is Instagram Live and people are jumping in and out, I always reintroduce the show as we're going along. So everyone who's just joined us, welcome to Show Us Your Shit. This is a show where, while we're in lockdown, we're talking to interesting people around the world and asking them to show us the most interesting stuff that they've collected over their lifetime. And tonight we are talking to Jane Milligan, and she is showing us some amazing shit. The funniest slippers ever, belonging to the funniest man ever. And what's next? What do we got next?
Well, I got all kinds of shit. So when I was a kid, my dad gave me this picture. He gave me this painting, right?
Oh, cool. What's that? So that's backwards. Is that readable? Is that meant to be?
It's rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Okay.
And I loved this picture all my life. It was on my nursery wall, and then when we lived in another house, it was on the wall. And I loved it so much. And one night he said to me, "Oh, the Bee Gees painted that for me." And I said, "What?"
All three? That's a collab?
One each. Rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Oh, yes.
Right? So when they were struggling musicians in the 60s, he let them stay in his basement because they had money. They'd come down from Liverpool and they were in London trying to make it. And so they stayed in his basement, and that was what they did. They painted that picture for him.
That's amazing.
As a thank you.
You've got original Bee Gees art. That is...
No, though. It's not signed.
Yeah, why not? I guess they just were like, we're not famous. This doesn't matter.
There's only one left now, isn't there? One Bee Gee.
Yeah, Barry, the
Yeah.
main. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, that is so cool. You didn't show me that.
Wall. I love it so much. I had no idea till I was like 50 years old that it was by Bee Gees.
Yeah. So
he
he had a really interesting relationship with the music world. I mean, just in terms of the Beatles really paired up with George Martin, their producer, because of Spike and Peter Sellers. George Martin was the Goon Show, the albums, kind of their solo stuff producer. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was best man at my parents' wedding too.
Who was George Martin?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my dad married my mum in 1963. Actually, interestingly, on that point, here is the top tier of their wedding cake.
What?
So this is really weird. But back in the 60s, when you got married,
yeah,
people would keep the top tier and have it sealed in a tin with like lead. So this is the top tier of my parents' wedding cake.
No.
Yeah. But when do I open that?
What will it? Oh my God! It's like a time capsule, but edible.
There, apart from cake, it's really heavy.
That is amazing. Where do you keep that? You don't keep that in the fridge, do you? That's not a permanent.
I keep it in the shed. I'll open it on my 21st. Oh, I'll open it on my 30th. Oh, I'll open it on my 50th. Oh God, I still haven't opened it yet. But
I'd never heard of that.
It was a thing. People used to do that.
Wow.
So, but George Martin was best man, and my mum was from Yorkshire, and she was marrying this madman who was 45 and she was 27. He was quite youthful, but my grandfather, Yorkshireman, was not very happy about it, I don't think. So they insisted that they got married in Yorkshire, where my mother was from. So he and George Martin drove up in a Mini, and it was just him and George, I think, and Harry Seacombe was there. It was a very formal wedding. But there's George in all the pictures, you know, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
I did meet him a few times in my life. I think when I was a sound engineer years ago, I asked his advice about becoming a studio engineer. I rang him up. Dad said, well, ring up and ask him, you know, he's the man. And I said, well, George, is it a good idea? I've been doing theatre, you know, should I go into studio work? He said, no, it's really dull. It's really boring. And this was,
and that was it?
George Martin. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Gonna listen to you. Yeah.
So,
that's wow.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting connection, the whole George thing, because the Beatles were great fans of the Goons as well, I think, and
massive.
Great
yeah.
fans of the Beatles, you know, and yeah, the connections were very intertwined. I think that all kinds of great shit was exchanged between those people.
Yeah. Well, you've got there's something you sent me which is actually Beatles related. I don't know if you have it near you, but that will be a cool thing to see if you have it.
Remind me.
It was a bottle. It was a bottle of beer.
Actually, I've got a really great photograph I found, early Beatles stuff. That's my mum and dad on the opening night of Hard Day's Night in Leicester Square.
Oh wow! Hang on. Oh yeah. Holding back the crowds.
Isn't it great?
That is beautiful.
I love that shot.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, so that's a good pick.
That is a great pick.
So when Spike got old, he moved to Rye in East Sussex because there were no main roads down there. And down lurking in East Sussex is also fellow lunatic Paul McCartney, and they became closer than they'd been, I think. And Paul brews his own beer.
Yeah, I didn't know that until you sent me this photo. I had no idea.
So I have two.
These are incredibly rare beers. I was looking them up. And just very quickly, we've moved on to a new item. The rules of the show is I've got to reintroduce every time for new people. Hey everyone, this is Show Us Your Shit. This is Show Us Your Shit. This is a show where we look at the interesting shit of interesting people. And we are talking to Jane Milligan, who is showing us some beers brewed by Paul McCartney that were given to her dad, Spike Milligan. So
for Christmas.
That is cool. So what's it say? Because again, it's backwards on our screen here.
Old Stinkhorn.
Old Stinkhorn beer.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's a sort of phallic mushroom that I think.
Yes.
Famously phallic mushroom. So he brewed a bunch of those, but yeah, I've looked them up online. They're so expensive to get a single bottle of that now because
really?
I think I don't know if he stopped brewing them, but I think they're a bit limited edition. And so
one off for something or other, shouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly. I think they get a good amount. They don't get an insane amount. I saw there's only one other alcoholic beverage I saw of the Beatles that you can buy. There's this great website called tracks.co.uk where they sell amazing Beatles memorabilia, and this is the only thing on it which is alcohol related that I could find. This is a bottle of champagne that George Martin gave to his gardener. So yeah, this is the gardener who's that's the only other one I could see. But yeah, Paul McCartney beer. So cool. No idea that he did that.
He's a cool guy. I quite liked him. We used to go around on Boxing Day. He had like a party on Boxing Day.
Right.
And we'd always get lost trying to find the house. And no one will ever tell you where he lives because the whole neighborhood is so protective.
Oh, right.
So I remember driving for hours around and around, eventually finding it. And meeting Linda, who was a very nice lady. And she was poorly then.
Right.
Poorly. And Dad, she wasn't making a fuss or anything, but she just tried to convert me to be a vegetarian within 10 minutes of arriving in the house. She had me crawling in a garage because someone had parked a Land Rover up against the door, and I had to crawl under the garage to go to the big freezer to get loads of sausages out and Linda McCartney pies and things like that.
Wow. But like original, like the non-produced ones. These are just handmade.
The real thing.
The real deal. Wow.
Dad had a cassette with him because he'd written a song, and Dad wrote a lot of music, which not many people know, and he had this cassette with him, which he then gave to Paul and said, "Can we go and listen to it in your studio?" So we all went into Paul's like den, which was so cool. It had all these lava lamps everywhere, pretend zoo animal blankets and stuff. It was really cool. I remember Paul putting his arm around me, and I'm thinking, fuck me, it's Paul McCartney. To my dad's tune on his cassette, you know. It's like a teenager. It was just brilliant. I just loved it, you know.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Was that his? I've been to Paul McCartney's windmill. Was that his windmill that you went to listen to the music, or was it in his house? He must have multiple.
House. It wasn't the windmill. He owns the windmill. Marsh. But no, this was the house.
This was the house, right?
Two big dogs, Mellow and Yellow. These great big floppy dogs, which were great, and lots of ponies, rescue ponies, and it was idyllic and lovely. You know, it's all great.
Yeah. And what was the music that your dad had written?
The music that he played to him was called the Grand Waltz, and it was pretty cheesy, and I was cringing like, because it was like, oh God, Dad, you've got so much better stuff than that. Why are you playing that to Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
But funnily enough, I have just discovered, well, it's a bit sad, but Dad's manager died
Norma Farnes, yes.
The legendary Norma Farnes. And so the family have taken over the running of the creative estate now. And so we now are sort of like privy to loads of material, which we haven't seen for a long time, possibly never. And so some of the stuff I have found are his scores to his music.
Oh, cool.
And so I found loads of these. That's obviously one that people will. The Ning Nang.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's the original score to Ning Nang Nong?
Yes. So he had all this stuff scored out properly, you know, like, because he was not an idiot. A lot of people think, oh, having a dad like yours, he must have been mad. He must have been bonkers. And I'm like, well, actually, no, he was quite an ordered soldier. You know, was pretty organized, but it's really lovely to see the music.
Wow.
I know, it's great.
I mean, that's one of the great British songs, regardless of
it is.
I mean, it just is. It's a childhood classic. That is
a whole
people are going nuts on the messaging underneath us right now. I mean, I mean, people would have grown up with that song. A lot of people watching this, wow, look at that.
Oh, and when he recorded it in like an Indian accent.
Right.
A lot of people accused him of being a racist because he was very free with his Asian and Indian accent, because he was actually a fluent Hindi speaker. You know,
was he? Didn't know that.
Born in India.
Yeah.
He was fluent. So I think he had the right to be exactly who he was and sing in whatever accent he liked, you know.
That's extraordinary that you have that. And is that a new discovery? Is that something that you didn't know was in the archives until now?
I didn't know. I had no idea.
Wow.
But other stuff, like, look at this. Can you see that? That's a song called Goodbye, and he wrote it for Dusty Springfield.
No. Did she appear on one of his shows to sing it?
She appeared on one of his shows, and it also says... it says we never managed to record it, and I've listened to the television version of it. That's right. Never performed, because they spent so much time laughing, and they couldn't get it all in the can. Out of time. But anyway.
That's so funny. I heard that he had. So I work a lot with John Lloyd, the producer, who through the years worked with Spike, and he was, I think, producing either the news quiz or quote unquote at the time, and he was a guest on it, Spike. And he said just during the recording, one of the guests requested a drink that wasn't really available there. So Spike just left and went to the shops. They just had to hold the recording just for him to go and get like any show that he was on was just completely, you're not going to get what you need, because he's just going to either get too much laughter or he's going to disrupt it. Or
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I as the child of this man, or now I'm a grown up apparently, you go, oh dear, I'm so sorry, a little bit. You feel a little bit awkward that he might have been a problem. But I've been reading so much material in the past year about him. And there's he said about as a young writer of the Goon shows, he was a very quiet and modest person when he started writing the Goon shows.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he said that as the years went by, whilst trying to achieve what he wanted, to get the right comedy and the right sound effects or the right voices and all that, he had to put his foot down and go, no, I want it to be this. That's not funny. This is funny.
Yes, yeah.
And became unpopular. Well, not unpopular, but started to get a bit of a reputation for being difficult.
Yeah.
When all he was trying to do was do it the way he felt it ought to be. I guess I'm feeling a bit like Victoria Wood maybe she knew that she needed 4 words in that sentence for it to be funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't funny if it was 3 or 5. It had to be 4. That kind of thing, you know.
No, totally. And also it is a thing that happens in for people, particularly in television. You always hear they're difficult. They're very difficult. And I always, whenever I hear that, I'm like, I bet they're not difficult. I bet what they said was, what we've got here is not good enough, and we're staying here till it fucking takes us the right amount of time to get this right. And everyone's going, oh, I need to get home. I'm missing my stuff. And all they're doing is going, no, I want this to be the funniest sound of a door opening that's ever been on radio. And that really matters. And as a result of, you know, that kind of attitude, the Goon Show is still, when you listen to it, I think the funniest thing ever made. It's perfect comedy. Yeah.
Here's a good bit of music then. Look at this, right? Dedicated to Eccles of Goon Show, never performed, but submitted to the BBC.
Amazing.
I know.
For what? For what was he submitting it?
So it will be
as Eccles for?
It's called Toccata Eccle. I can't even pronounce it. Eccles Ecclesiastica.
Very cool.
Obviously, he had his own special piece of music. Eccles.
I love how much when all the things you're showing us, how much he overdoodled and overwrote on bits of paper. There's unnecessarily so.
Moving
extra jokes.
Things like this. So you probably can't make this out, but this is the sort of stuff we had round the house. So these are the pins that go in a Victorian table, right? They're kind of like pieces of metal that link an old table together. But it says here, right, this is typical of Spike. Important. These are the joining pins for the divided something round Georgian table in the drawing room, May 1984. Good luck, little pins, or goodbye. Those messages were all over our house. Here's
incredible.
Here's another one, right? It says here, these were some of Paddy's treasures. Paddy was my mum. I have given some to Jane and some to Celie, my sister. I will try and place these with whoever wants them. Signed, the Milligan Sorting, Packaging and Postal Service. Was a bit grumpy about things, you know.
Yeah.
Very organised.
There was a great set of books that were published by Norma Farms, which were the letters of Spike, and it's packed with these little post-it notes that he just consistently wrote everywhere on everything. Just clearly his way of communicating a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You said you've been sort of reading a lot at the moment on him. What's the best thing out there that you've read about him?
Well, I'm talking about the files. There are thousands.
Oh, okay, right.
Because he was such an archivist of everything. I mean, just from the right size plug file for the bar, the spare, to a folder that said, it's just called Ian Brady, right? I've got a folder I found that just says Ian Brady on it. I've got to look in it. What is this? So in the 60s, when Ian Brady was murdering children, unfortunately, he recorded the screams of the children on set. I don't know if you know this horrific fact, but on the other side of one of the cassettes was a Goon Show, which devastated my father because he thought this bastard has humour as me, and what can I do? So he decided he would write a book on Ian Brady. This was just an idea. He said, I'll write a book on Ian Brady and wife beaters, and all the proceeds of the book I'll give to women who are women and children who are destroyed by these monsters. And this folder is him writing to the Home Office and asking permission to visit Brady and his thoughts about it all. And just what a brain, you know, just idea to do that. I mean, where did he find the time? God knows. But
that's the thing, the time. Where was the time? Where did he get that extra time from?
I don't know. They say the more you do, the more you can do.
Yeah. There's a thing. Howard Goodall, the composer who did Blackadder's theme and Red Dwarf and all that, he was saying Bach wrote so much music in his lifetime that if you were doing it to the scale of someone writing normally, there's not enough time. So his theory was back then there was more time, and we've got less time now. But then you throw up someone like Spike, and you do think, you know, 100 books. He wrote 100 books. He wrote the TV series. He wrote all of those radio shows that he was doing, and there's multiple series that are not spoken about as much. Where did he get the time? And you really don't see many jokes that lapse over into. I mean, he did stand up as well. He did plays. It was extraordinary.
I've got albums and albums. You know, I've got all his. I've been finding all his albums.
Oh, cool! Nice.
Like the Bridge
over the River Wye. Yes.
Yeah. But also within his record collection, he abused this record. I always thought this was really funny. Look, he's put This is just a comedy. This is just a terrible picture of a tenor, right? But look, he's numbers on his forehead like he's a criminal. I love that. Look at that guy's face. Sorry.
That's amazing.
Descendants of the Milnes family.
Yeah.
That made me laugh.
I love one of the books that I read ages ago was Norma Farns's book about him, and there's the story of the office that he occupied with Eric Sykes and was it Galton and Simpson as well?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
And Terry Nation, like he invented the Daleks in the very office, I think.
The building that they were in, it's still there. You want to come and visit?
Oh, cool! What, the office exists as part of the family's business, or?
So the building was bought by Sykes and Milligan in the 60s in Bayswater in Orme Court, and it became Associated London Comedy Press, and basically the whole building was full of creatives, and over the years various people worked and worked there, but Spike had room 6 and the main room downstairs, and Norma ran his affairs until she died, really. Eric died a few years after Spike, but yeah, Dad sold his part of it when he moved to Rye, so but we still have the archive in the basement there, and very kindly they allowed us to keep it there because of Spike's iconic status, I suppose, really.
Yes.
Bringing all that to that place, you know, so delving through it all slowly and trying to decide like what to do with it, where it goes, who needs what, you know, stored, and what should be looked at and what should be out there, you know.
Exactly.
Unpublished and all this music, you know, it's quite a prolific creator across so many platforms. Like from, did you know he painted?
Well, I have in my house, I bought a print that he painted, and I saw a post that you did the other day on Instagram, and I noticed that you have it on your wall in the background as well.
It's a woman, yeah?
Yeah, it's this one here.
In her pants.
Yeah.
We all have it. I'm going to show you it. There's mine.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so I didn't realize how much of an artist he was, but I saw that in on a website. In fact, if anyone wants to get it, there's a website called British Comedy Memorabilia, something like that. Put that in and put Spike Milligan art, and there's a couple more of these prints that they're selling on there, which was it's a really good site for British comedy. It's got a lot of John Cleese memorabilia and so on, and it's there's like 2 more on there, I think, if anyone wants to snap one up. But yeah, like he was an artist as well.
He was. We have the cards. You know, Norma did this whole thing where Where is it? When? I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Yeah. You know,
Oh, yeah.
little doodles, and Norma made them into cards.
Very cool.
It was great of her. Yeah, that was her
Yeah.
a big thing after he died. She got all that range of cards out, you know, and they're really popular.
Yeah, and calendars as well. I've
That's
seen.
it.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. Let's get another solid item up. And just for anyone else who is joining us now, welcome to Show Us Your Shit. This is a show where every night we're talking to someone new who is sitting in their home surrounded by all the interesting stuff they've collected over a lifetime. And tonight's guest is Jane Milligan, who is showing us a lot of stuff that belonged to her dad, Spike Milligan.
Yes.
And I think you're about to show
more shit.
I think this is the most extraordinary object.
Do you really?
I really do. I think this has a poignancy to it, which is, it really made me almost emotional when you posted this photo. So tell us what this is.
Okay, so this bottle of brandy is very, very old. In fact, if you can see, the label says 1811 on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was bottled during the Napoleonic War. You can get your head, right? And he bought a case of about, I think maybe 6 of these back in the 50s. And they were about 55 quid each then. And this is the bottle that we drank the night Peter Sellers died.
Amazing.
Yeah. And we had to hack off the crust with a hammer, you know. And when it opened, it was like, whoo, my God, you could have flown an airplane with what was inside.
Wow.
As you sipped it, it just evaporated. But I can remember in my youth what an emotional night that was for Spike, you know.
Yeah, so you were part of the drinking of it. You were part of the...
Out of a little tiny bit.
Right.
But what was left, I mean, we didn't do the whole bottle because it was so potent, but you can see the N for Napoleon right there, look.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
With a very high, the older the bottle, I think the higher the, whatever this is called.
Yeah. So
yeah.
this was, from reading years ago a Peter Sellers biography, I know that Spike was in the hospital just sitting there just in floods of tears. I mean, obviously one of his best friends throughout the years. And then, so he came home and you guys cracked it open and... I
think it may not have been that night, I think, but certainly Dad was a big one for, you know, the moment, and we had a nice dining room, and I think we shared a meal, all of us, and, you know, he would orate about things, you know, he had a great sense of the moment, and there would have been a toast. I don't remember it that clearly. We actually had all 3 wives come for dinner over the next month.
Oh, really? Oh.
All of Sellers. Well, there were 4 wives, weren't they, there?
Yeah, so...
4, but 3 came for dinner, 1 at a time. And, yeah, I can remember every wife coming. I don't think we had the brandy with them, but certainly he was devastated by the loss of his great mate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been horrific. What you just mentioning the wives there, is there a bit of a community of Goon Show kids? Are you mates with the Sellers and the Seacombe? And
yeah, we're good mates actually. Mike Sellers was great, like a brother really. Mike and my brother Sean were best buddies. Sean and Mike were great friends. They were engineers together at Air Studios back in the 70s. Then they ran their own decorating business together for years. And
wait,
Michael,
so did they work? So Air Studios was George Martin's studio.
Yeah.
So did he give them different advice? Did he say get into it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
okay.
Sean is his godson. Sean is, yeah. So and Dad is I've forgotten his name. George's son's name. I've forgotten his name.
Oh yeah. Who is now Giles, who's now a producer. Yeah.
Spike is his godfather, I think.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So yeah, they must have had different advice, and yeah, it was when it was in Oxford Circus, and they worked with Roxy Music. Sean used to engineer for Roxy Music. He was known as Cardinal Fang. he rolled all the joints and mixed all the tracks, something like that. Anyway, so
Amazing.
him and me were very close. Michael died, unfortunately, around the same age that Peter was.
Right.
So Mike, yeah, but Sarah, we're close with Sarah. My sisters and I are close with Sarah and her girls. And yeah, and funny. Well, I know Andy Seacombe well, and I've only met Katie really in the past couple of years. We both were in Mamma Mia. We both played the same role. Weirdly,
cool.
We both played Rosie, the comedy role, and we finally we were both put together on stage last April by the Mamma Mia people, and we all had to show up and do a tribute night for the 20th anniversary, and that's when I hung out with her, and my God, it's just like we could be from the same. We're from the same stable, I guess.
Yes,
like
yeah. Wait, so Katie is who's
Katie's a Seacombe.
A Seacombe.
Yes,
right.
Sorry, I'm speaking like it's because we're all. I'm in my front room. It's like you're all here in my front room. So yeah, there's definitely a family vibe around all the Goon children.
Yeah, and how about that upper tier of your Spike's buddies? You know, the sort of the greats of comedy. Do you still see any of the, like Barry Cryer, for example, who I guess is
Barry has taken me under his wing.
Oh yeah,
is great. And he phones me up sometimes, and he phones me up just to see how I'm doing. And we ended up doing Puckoon together. He was the narrator. He was our narrator in an audio version of Puckoon we did on radio last November. So
was that that's Dirk Maggs, right? Was that Dirk Maggs who produced? Yeah. Dirk Maggs, he sort of took over, for anyone who doesn't know him, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all of the books that were never converted into a radio show. But he's also a phenomenal radio producer. I haven't actually heard the Puckoon series yet. I saw the movie Puckoon, and Sean. Yeah. Oh, it was a one-off, right? Okay.
Yeah, a whole play, and it was a wonderful cast. We had a really great day, and Barry was fantastic. And occasionally he just rings up out the blue, and he's wonderful and very funny and warm and great. And it's just like speaking to the old school again, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
he's like any shit at all, and he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
An idiot at 400 paces, you know. He's just brilliant.
He was a guest on QI many, many years ago, back in 2004 or 5, and I was new to TV, and it was my first series at QI, and I couldn't believe that Barry Cryer was there, and it was filmed in the studios on the South Bank, which is a very complicated building. You have to go up a lift 3 floors to get 2 floors down to get 1 floor. It's nuts, and I had it down pat because they'd occasionally ask me to just bring people out of the building. And so I was asked to bring Barry out, and I purposely pretended to get lost so I could buy an extra 15 minutes just hanging out. Where are we? This is a crazy corridor. I've never seen this before. And yeah, got so much more time with him as a result. Just an incredible guy. Incredible anecdotes.
Yeah, I know. Smoking loads of fags and drinking beer. How does he do that? It's about 122. Unbelievable.
Let's grab another item. Have you got more stuff?
So a long time ago, Spike got asked to do the Muppet Show.
Oh yeah.
And as an 11-year-old, for me, that was like the most exciting. In fact, I have a photograph of me at the Muppet Show. So when you go and do the Muppet Show with Jim Henson, it was in Elstree, just up the road from where I live. It was brilliant. So
cool.
It's such a great episode. I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's lots of it on YouTube. It's fabulous. He's so in his cups. He's so vibrant. Sadly, my mother had just died.
Oh no.
So we were in quite a lot of trauma, but Spike, was true pro, and it's a brilliant episode. But when you do the Muppet Show, you get given this beautiful little Kermit the Frog.
Wow.
And that's Spike's Kermit.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I love that so much. But I found today, look, that's me as a kid with my best friend with Fuzzy Bear.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Where has that been that you've not known where that That would be on my wall permanently.
I just picked it out to go with I don't look at it that often. It's just in my house. But yeah, I thought I better, if I've got the little Kermit, I'll get a little photograph of me with Fuzzy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's quite a nice experience. The sad bereavement to be around the Muppets, to be around those.
I got in quite a bit of trouble that day because I put my hand right up Miss Piggy. I was like, the puppets were just there. You do not put your hand inside a Muppet. It really is. It's like, so I got really told off by Louise Gold, the brilliant Louise Gold.
Who's Louise Gold? I don't know Louise Gold.
She's actually a really prominent actress and done a lot of musical theatre. She's been in Mamma Mia. I think she was played a Rosie as well. But she operated puppets on the Muppets, and I remember her saying, "Don't put your hand up, Miss Piggy," you know.
Yeah. I've seen bits of that episode, and it's kind of, that's almost him in his element again, because that's the cast. That's almost how in my head you sort of think how he sees the world anyway. He's surrounded by these wonderful Muppets. Characters, Muppets. Yeah. How very, very cool.
It's a great episode.
Do they still give that? Is that a sort of extinct item?
I've no idea. I had a little look, and they are a thing. You know, people that did the Muppets get that little gift, which is quite sweet.
Yeah. So, I wonder what you do with all this stuff. I mean, it's like where do you do a little museum? Is it a corner of a museum?
You know, we've been talking to various people. We've been thinking about getting another office further north, up, you know, where we live, and it's like Spike is still going. You know, people are still ringing up. The phone's still ringing, and people want to do stuff like Bad Jelly. We're just signing with a company in New Zealand to animate Bad Jelly the Witch.
Are you?
Yeah, because Bad Jelly the Witch is big in New Zealand. She's big.
My buddy who's watching this right now, Leon Buttons, Kirkbeck, he's called Buttons, who I think he wrote earlier that he met your dad at one point, but he was telling me earlier today that Bad Jelly, and he's New Zealand, he's a New Zealand boy, when he was growing up, massive there, just huge. Ginormous. And I know it was in Australia as well.
Yeah. Well, here's the platinum disc of Bad Jelly. I mean, that's like.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Because it's on the radio. It was on the radio every weekend, apparently, every Sunday, like a kid's story time, and it was Spike narrating it with Ed Welsh's music on the back of it. So there's a guy called Nathan Graves who we've basically just employed to be Bad Jelly's agent because she's got a lot of work coming up. He's a dealer, and he's the guy that got it back on the radio. He worked for Universal. He's a great guy, and so. There's this animated cartoon. We might put her on stage because the stage show is huge over there. Might bring her here. And I mean, she could even be a movie. You know, it's just a great story for kids. And she's out of print here at the moment. So I need to talk to your wife.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
About publishing. I need to get my head around it all, you know.
I'll go wake her up. We'll do another time. Yeah. No, she's in bed with recovering from birth, so she might not be keen on that. We have, so these things run for an hour and then they cut off. Do you have a few more minutes if we cut off and come back? What do you need? Do you need to run off? Yeah.
Shit.
You got more shit?
Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. That's the new theme tune, by the way. We have a theme tune to this show now. Show Us Your Shit has a theme tune, and it has been written by my best buddy, Ash Gardner of Emperor Yes. If you listen to No Such Thing as a Fish, he wrote and performed the theme tune Wasps, which is our theme tune. So this is his Spotify playlist. This is the album, An Island Called Earth. So I thought, okay, here it is, track 2, Wasps. That's the Fish theme tune. So if you want to hear the full song, go there on Spotify. And for this theme tune, I've gone down to track 4. So that was Cosmos you're hearing. I'm just working my way through his album, creating new projects, and I'm eventually going to have a full catalogue of shows that use each one of his songs. Okay, Jane Milligan is back, so let's bring her back in.
Called Show Us Your Shit, or some Shakespeare, a pair of pajamas, and a mutton chop. And we'll get to why it's called that at the end if you've not seen the show before. Welcome back, Jane. Show Us Your Shit. This is Jane Milligan, and she is showing us a lot of her dad, Spike Milligan's shit. So, do we have another item?
Yes, I do. So this is this is just a little quickie. So Spike used to notoriously drive a Mini everywhere. So despite making a good living, you know, and everyone was buying Rolls Royces in the 60s and the 70s to show their wealth, Spike drove the Mini, right? And a few years ago, the last Mini he had was this little yellow Mini. And these people came, the corgi people came to me and they said,
"Oh no,
can we make it into a toy?" Yeah, it's actually his Mini.
That is so cool. What's it say on the back? Can you read a tiny bit of the back?
Mini Mania, and lots of very tiny writing I can't read because I've got an eye infection at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, registration plate, his name, the Mini.
That is so cool.
And so that was pretty cool.
That is amazing.
Isn't that great?
How many people is that a signed? That's just a printed signed as opposed to on the front there. I can see his signature sitting on the front there.
He was gone. When I had this done, he was already.
Oh, okay, right.
But yeah, his little signature is right there on the box there.
Yeah.
But they've copied it.
They've copied it. How cool!
I know, isn't it great?
Who else has their car done by corgi?
I don't know. There may be quite a few people. I'm not sure, but I just thought it was the coolest thing, and he would have been so pleased. In the 80s, and you know, he just thought it was the best car on the road because it was small. You could get about. You could fix it yourself. You could get 4 people in it.
Yeah.
And, it cost very little to run. It was easy to park, and it was very green. In fact, his final Mini, he was one of the first people to ever do it. He had the engine converted to take green fuel. You know,
he really
free before we knew about that shit. He was
You
know, as another big part of his life was conservation. You know, he was a real champion for the planet, and everything that's been going on at the moment. He'd be so wise about these things. He was always 25 years before his time. You know.
Yeah.
He made himself be a vegetarian because he knew it wasn't going to work out. And, it's really worth for just exactly what you're saying, getting the Spike Milligan letters, those books, and more Spike Milligan letters, because half of the letters are about why we should be veggie, about why clean energy should be used, about why recycling, about what, like, he was an animal welfare. He was so dedicated and so serious, and all these letters coming back going, "Oh, I thought you were meant to be really funny." And he was like, "There's nothing funny about this. We need to save the world." He was obsessed with saving the planet. You know, I mean, it's actually slightly ironic. He was, I think, very involved with population concern. And if you really study the greatest problem we probably have is the amount of people we have on the planet. And it's not going to get less.
Yeah.
I know you've just had a baby, but Spike was, I think he may have been involved with population concern, but he actually had 6 of his own.
Yeah.
We only thought he had 4, but that's okay.
Right.
The skeleton came clattering out of the cupboard because he opened the door himself to let them out.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, he was onto that, and you know, anyway.
Yeah. I have one piece of my own shit to show, which I'm staying at my in-laws at the moment, so I'm away from all my stuff. But one of the books that he produced was a book called Milligan's Ark, which was, and that was a book that was a charity book, basically, to raise awareness. I think, again, if I wish I had the book on me to say exactly what it was. But the whole premise of the book was Milligan's Arc, and let me get every celebrity that I know to draw a bit of art, and publishes it in the book. And it was people from, God, there was people like Barbara Streisand, I think, did stuff, and yeah, it was a big. Maybe the Bee Gees did a rhubarb for it. I don't know. I haven't actually looked, but I managed to win in an auction just after my son Wilf was born, my first son. And this led to sort of divorce questions in my marriage, sort of the amount of money that I was willing to spend on it. But I bought this, which is Peter Sellers's drawing in the book.
Wow.
Yeah, it's his original drawing that he did.
Wow.
The civil service heron, and it doesn't have those words in the book, but I started building a collection for my son, which is children's books where there's an illustration in the book and he can have the illustration on the wall. So the books on his shelves will be on his wall as well. It's kind of the idea. I've only got 2 so far. It's not a huge collection. But that's one of the only, I think, published Peter Sellers artworks outside of the William McGonagall books that he did with your dad. But yeah, it's
we just found the most amazing plastic bag full of drawings by the goons, pencil drawings of characters, how they saw them.
For those were published in the Goon Show scripts. Those were all like Eccles and stuff. No, like just extra stuff.
Some things that have not been seen before, I think, just like this bag that's been put to one side at some point. Right. This amazing cupboard in Orme Court. At some point, it's Spike's cupboard, and it's a walk-in cupboard, but it's full of stuff, incredible stuff, and obviously he's just put this down in 1962 and never revisited this bag, and it's mind-blowing.
Wow.
If you're into it,
Yeah. Is it all the goons, or is it just Spike?
Yeah.
Wow.
Spike, Peter, Harry.
Very cool.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Yeah. I'll wake up my wife now. Why are we wasting time? We need this out in the public. This is so good. Yeah.
Okay. So, madly in love with his kids, as I'm sure you are with yours.
Yeah.
This is the swing we used to swing on in our garden as children, right? So he's had it carved. Can you read it?
This swing was used by
my children.
Laura.
Yeah, Laura.
Sean. Sile.
And Jane.
Wow. That's your swing seat. That's the swing seat. Amazing.
And the years. It's so cute, isn't it?
What a dad. What a dude.
I know. So
that is awesome.
So that's
is this how come you've got all this stuff and not the other kids?
Okay, so I'm the 4th born.
And
when your dad's like a legend like that, and his marriage, his final marriage, he died before she died, and she basically sold a lot of stuff off, and it was a bit painful for us. But good people in the world ring you up and they want to give it back to you, and I was willing to go and get it all and available. And my sisters have stuff, my brother has stuff, we all have stuff, but it's taken a while to sort of retrieve it all from slightly chaotic places, and it ended up, with a guy like Spike, things can go a bit derailed. So bits and pieces have come in time, but he was a prolific man with a massive house, so there is a lot of it. But yeah, various bits were with me already, and other things I've wanted to pick up from people. Things were auctioned, I've bought them back. I mean, that's something I started with, was this radio, wasn't it? Can you see this radio?
Yeah.
So that's Spike's radio. And that went into an auction after my stepmom died.
Right.
And I had to buy it back, but
Really?
Yeah.
God, that's such a. There's a thing of Julian Lennon who fought for many, many years to get any money from the estate, from Yoko, basically, years and years, and he eventually got a sizable chunk. I think about 20 million, let's say, something like that, which is kind of peanuts for the John Lennon estate. But what he does is he rebuys in auctions all the stuff that belonged to him when he was younger that sort of fell out of his hands. So he rebuys the letters that his dad wrote to him at Sotheby's, and he rebuys the guitars that he grew up with and so on. Yeah, so the money he got is basically...
It's nowhere near as bad for us, but it does have elements of that, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. So that was what do you mean that was his radio? As in that was his bedside radio, or? No,
so that was the radio we had in our house, in our drawing room. So he would have bought that probably in the 70s, say, you know. It wasn't his childhood thing, but it was a prized possession. And I always think it's quite iconic because he achieved such success on the radio.
Yes, yeah.
That's that in our drawing room. And it works, you know, you turn it on and this beautiful amber honey light comes on. It's not plugged in at the moment. And you used to be able to listen to it, but I think he loved that radio. And when I saw it go up for auction, I knew I really needed that, or we needed it. The family needed it. It needed to be in the Milligan family clan, you know, because of what he did on the radio.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Such a cool reason. Yeah.
I
love
needed
it.
to buy it back.
Yeah.
But I did. Fuck it. You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we should wrap up in a sec. I was just going to quickly show you this really wonderful thing. I think see if I've got it. Oh, unfortunately, it's on my phone and on my phone. But my mum, so years ago in 2002, my mum was in a secondhand store in Sydney, and she found a bunch of Goon Show records. It was in a big box. It was a collection of about 6, and she bought it for me. We don't have a record player, but she knows that I just used to collect all sorts of comedy things as a sort of 16-year-old. And she was in a shop, and this guy was standing next to her, and he went, "Oh, the Goon Show. Yeah, really cool. No, they were talking about hairdressing because there was a thing on the wall, and they both were, "Oh, I'm a hairdresser. You're a hairdresser." And then he spotted the Goon Show thing, and he said, "Oh, I used to be married to Laura Milligan." Yeah, so Laura's first wife. And my mom was like, "No way, that's amazing." And through the conversation, they worked out that Laura was living around the corner from us in Sydney. Like, she was a neighbor. And so I didn't meet her at that point. I only met her a few years later. But she said to me, she said to my mum, "I'm going back to see my dad. Do you want me to bring any books to get signed by him?" And I said, yes, but I wrote him a letter, and she dug up the letter the other day that I wrote to him. It was this long letter. I remember writing about 50 drafts of it, and she found, I think, the first draft of it. And I don't have it here now, unfortunately. But basically, I said that if I ever get into comedy, it's down to you completely. And I basically need to give you 10% of everything because of how heavily influenced you have been in my life. So she went off and she saw him, and she came back, and the book that I got given was this, and that was the message. And that is a 16-year-old just absolutely blew my mind. It was a game-changing moment, and it's a possession that I take everywhere with me. Such a cool thing. So we are at the end of the show. So I'm going to bring in the final bit of the title here. So the show is called Show Us Your Shit, or Some Shakespeare, a Pair of Pajamas, and a Mutton Chop. The reason it's called that is because when P.G. Wodehouse was living in France during World War II, Nazis were descending on his house. His wife and him worked out they had 10 minutes to get out of the house, grab valuables, and leave. Otherwise, they would get caught. So in that 10 minutes, his wife grabbed a suitcase and said, "Get the most valuable things in the house." And the things that he grabbed were only 3 things: a copy of Shakespeare, some pajamas, and a mutton chop. So I'm going to ask you, you've got the suitcase, you got those 3 items, but you can fit one more thing in from your own house. What's the one item that you flee from your house with? And it can be something you didn't show us tonight, or it can be something you showed us tonight.
It's my flute.
Your flute? Are you that's what you play?
Yeah.
Very cool. That's the best answer we've had so far.
Oh, well, I'd be able to play it, wouldn't I? And kind of make a bit of money on the street corner.
Yeah.
Farming snakes.
Yeah. Amazing. Very cool. Is it a special flute, or is it just the flute you have?
I always loved it a lot because it's a pearl flute, and pearl are notorious or well known for making drum kits. And I used to study flute with a man called Derek Horner from the Royal Academy, and he was amazing. But my flute was made by drumming people in Japan, and I always thought that was cooler than the coolest thing. The coolest shit of all was my flute was actually engineered by people that made drum kits.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So and then I went on to learn to play the drums. So.
Oh, cool. You're a drummer as well. Cool.
Crap. Pretty good.
No, a flute's much more practical to flee a house with than an entire drum kit. Yeah. Jane, thank you so much for doing this. This was
pleasure. Absolutely
amazing. And I hope once lockdown is done, we can meet up properly for a beer and say hi. I'd love to see the office as well. That would be incredible.
When we're unlocked.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that was fun. I know it was, because I can see the messages it's just basically the messages have just been wow the whole way through. So thank you you brought some awesome shit to the show tonight. It's just awesome. And everyone else who's watching, we're going to be back again tomorrow night. This is a nightly thing. We're just talking to people every night, seeing interesting stuff. So tune in again. Same shit channel, same shit time at 9:30 p.m. here on Instagram Live. And we'll see you all later. Jane, catch you later. Have a great night.
And lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye.